The town of Harmony Ridge was a peaceful place. It was surrounded by rolling hills and sparkling streams. But peace always has its price. At the edge of town loomed a dense, dark forest. Locals called it the Whispering Woods. The forest had a sinister reputation. Legends spoke of people disappearing within its shadowy depths. No one dared to venture into the Whispering Woods. Its trees stood tall and menacing, their branches twisted like gnarled fingers. They seemed to claw at the sky. The woods were always shrouded in an unnatural silence. It was the kind of silence that felt heavy, almost suffocating. It was as if the woods were holding their breath, waiting. But the most unsettling thing about the Whispering Woods were the whispers. Faint, disembodied voices seemed to drift through the trees. Some said they were the voices of the lost souls trapped forever within the woods. Mark, Sarah, Jake, and Mia were the daredevils of Harmony Ridge. They craved adventure. They scoffed at local legends. So naturally, the Whispering Woods held a dark allure for them. One Friday night, they hatched a plan. They decided to explore the woods. They told themselves it was just a silly legend. They would be the ones to finally debunk it. Armed with flashlights and a sense of bravado, they set off into the woods. As twilight painted the sky, they crossed the invisible border. They were now inside the Whispering Woods. The air instantly grew colder. The silence was deafening, broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. They felt a thrill of fear, but they also felt excitement. They were finally doing it. They were exploring the Whispering Woods. As they ventured deeper, the woods seemed to close in around them. The trees grew denser, their branches intertwining overhead, blocking out the last rays of sunlight. They were now truly lost in a world of shadows. The whispers started subtly. They were just faint murmurs at the edge of hearing. It was almost like the wind rustling through the leaves. But the wind wasn't blowing that night. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "Hear what?" Jake asked, trying to sound brave. But even he could feel a shiver run down his spine. The whispers grew louder, closer. They seemed to be coming from all directions at once. It was as if the woods themselves were speaking to them, warning them to turn back. They stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a dilapidated cabin. It looked ancient, its wooden walls rotting and overgrown with ivy. The windows were boarded up, like sightless eyes staring out at them. The whispers seemed to be the loudest near the cabin. The friends exchanged nervous glances. They could feel their hearts pounding in their chests. Curiosity warred with fear. "Let's just take a quick look," Mark said, his voice betraying his nervousness. They cautiously approached the cabin. As they drew closer, the whispers intensified, becoming an almost deafening cacophony. They strained to make out words, but the voices were too jumbled, too chaotic. They reached the front door. The wood was old and dry. Mark reached out a trembling hand and knocked. The sound echoed through the clearing, swallowed by the silence that followed. Suddenly the door creaked open. It swung inward as if inviting them in. The friends hesitated. They didn't want to go inside. They knew they should turn back, but something drew them closer. They stepped across the threshold and into the cabin. The stench of decay hit them with full force. It was the smell of death and rot. The whispers stopped abruptly the moment they crossed the threshold. A heavy silence descended upon them. It was the silence of anticipation. As their eyes adjusted to the dimness, they realized the cabin was empty. There was no furniture, no sign of life, just bare wooden walls and a dirt floor. But they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The hairs on the back of their necks stood on end. They turned to leave but found the door was gone. The doorway was now a solid wall of wood. They were trapped. Panic surged through them. They were trapped inside the haunted cabin. The whispers started again, swirling around them, mocking their fear. They pounded on the walls, desperate to escape. Mia noticed a faint glow coming from the back of the cabin. They rushed towards it and found a small, boarded-up window. Desperation lending them strength, they tore the boards away, creating a small opening. One by one they squeezed through the window, cutting themselves on the jagged wood. They didn't stop running until they were out of the woods. They burst out of the tree line, gasping for breath, their clothes torn, their bodies scratched and bruised. They never spoke of what happened that night, but the terror stayed with them. It lingered in the shadows of their minds. The Whispering Woods had given them a story they could never tell. It was a secret that bound them together in fear. They had learned their lesson. Some places are best left undisturbed. Some secrets are better left buried. The Whispering Woods held a darkness they had barely glimpsed, and they knew, deep down, that it was a darkness that would never truly let them go.